Welcome to another episode of the APL Spotlight Series. Incredible guests the world over with amazing insights, experiences, and more. You're here not just, though, to hear amazingness via words. You're usually picking up on the vibe of the guest and having a little bit of fun as they have fun with the universe, angels, consciousness. Call it whatever you want. They're often taking steps on air. You always want to hang around to the end. That could be lit sage they're smelling or you're smelling through two screens. Seeing light on my fingers, their fingers, your fingers, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, auras, or even just seeing a photo of an angel, listening to an angel, and so on. Today, we've got probably our most veteran, stellar, returning guest. He's been on the regular show at least 3 times, maybe 4, been on at least 3 or 4 panels, but it's his first APL Spotlight Series appearance, so I had to get him in here as fast as possible. His name is Paul Sugar. He's out of Arizona. He's got an incredible background. I could be here for half an hour giving it all. But he was briefly a remote viewer, Stargate program. That should perk a few ears up. So hit an emoji or put an emoji in the comments right away there for that one. He's been on stage with Deepak Chopra. He's been teaching mindfulness meditation for around 50 years. Went to Syracuse at the same time that my parents were there. I don't think they knew each other, but might have passed within a few hundred yards of each other back in the 60s. He had a near-death experience back then, going back for his final year at Syracuse. Out-of-body experiences, but not while sleeping, or not necessarily while sleeping, but also while like awake, sitting here like this. That's unusual. Super sage, super fun, great laugh like a Billy Crystal. And you'll see him and you'll figure this out on the other panels. We got him here today. Paul, great to see you again. That was a long intro, but that's the kind of guy you are. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
And thank you. Let's talk about angels, the universe, consciousness. Let's go big picture, but I'm going to start it off with a Native American sort of quote. It might be from Karl Hammerschlag, Dancing Healers, but I'm not sure. And here it is. In American society, we think something is happening when there's talking. In Native American tribes, something is happening when there is silence. And I'm going to add a different quote from 10 years ago from Dull Knife, Unconditional Love Spirit Guide, Cheyenne. He said, there's no such thing as silence. There's only stillness. So let's amend that quote to stillness. Is there more happening in stillness than us just chatting away like we have to on a podcast?
The quick answer is yes. There's a lot happening in stillness. The whole silence thing, I think that's kind of a perception issue in that you could say that there is silence to us, but in the end, there really is no silence since there's always an element of vibration in the universe. And vibration means that there could very well be some kind of sound. It appears to some of us at times like silence, but if you dig deeper and you go deeper within yourself, you'll find that that silence has some kind of sound as well. Now, the stillness, that's a whole other ball game. Stillness, to me, stillness is a doorway into the universe. I have found in my experience, not just in meditation and practice things like that, but in my everyday waking life as well, the stillness is with me pretty much all the time at this point. And I experience stillness as a gateway into understanding the universe. There's there's a lot of activity going on in that stillness. I know that probably sounds a little bit contradictory right there, but once again, the way I experience stillness is as a gateway into all the activity of the universe. Stillness is I guess we're talking about human experience here. So the human experience of stillness is one thing. The non-human experience of stillness is another thing. And so starting out with the human experience, that's the gateway. But once you go through that gateway, you enter into shall we say, much more than the human experience. It includes the human experience, but it includes many other types of experiences as well, taking into account our existence on other levels in other dimensions and so forth and so on, and then addresses how our existence in these other universes and dimensions and so forth dovetail into that interconnectedness with everyone and everything. That's a very subtle kind of experience, yet very exciting kind of experience when that realization comes upon me that it's not just me, it's everything else and how we're all interconnected. And it's such a good feeling, peaceful feeling when that comes to me.
Now, you could argue that the gateless gate is that doorway you're talking about. It's the heart. It's what Frank Sinatra would term where all the good crap games can be found, down that alleyway. Okay, I'm going to light some sage early here because we're going to get a little experiential to offset the deep answers. You are super seasoned as a traveler around the universe, just sitting like this, and in many other ways. You've detailed that on other shows. Other panelists who have shared time with you on those panels love to interact with you. I am super enamored with some of the guests, a lot of the guests that have come on the show. You're one of them, but you've had a chance to interact like off camera with some of our other guests, get to know them, and some you knew before they came on the show here. So there's this beautiful network of what I'll call wiser people than I who can put words to everything. Here's a little bit of sage for people who don't know what we're doing. You can catch the smell of sage through two screens, and it doesn't matter if the year is 2030, 2035, and you're in Chile, India, or Japan. So give yourself permission, catch a little sage. You're in Arizona, I'm in Texas. Are you already getting the sage?
Yeah.
And if you'll ask for a little bit more, you might get flowers, you might catch a little bit of light around you, or let them spin the twister wheel. And who's them? The universe, angels, unconditional beings of light, unconditional love beings of light. What are you getting as extra right now?
Getting lilac,
I
oddly
didn't do
enough.
it. We're going
There's
to
a lot of, and there's a lot of sage in Arizona, as you know, particularly after a rain. The sage is very prominent.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that.
yeah, but and it's a great smell. But for some reason, I'm getting tones of lilac with it.
Now, before we get to the next question, which I'll give a hint about it, which is there's a lot of talking going on. There's obviously some people out there who are healers or doing something with their energy or helping people experience, doing experiential sort of stuff out there. But I would argue it's sort of like this much of that, and most of it's talking in the spiritual industry out there. And I'm going to ask you, where are we on the whole timeline? Are we before the existence of electricity? Are we at the existence of electricity or still whale lamps or using whale oil for lamps? Are we at the telegraph? Are we up to the cell phone yet for all that we're capable of? I'm going to ask you that in a second, but I want to put up Joy and have her weigh in on where we're at in this conversation. She's an angel, unconditional love. What does she have as a reminder for everybody watching on how to keep it easy, how to keep it fun?
Just staying with that stillness. To me, that's always been the key.
Okay, and Charlotte, I'll throw up one more angel. She's a little bit older, everybody's favorite school teacher from third grade, but if you're watching in New Zealand right now, third form, what does she have to say about how simple this all really is?
Yeah, it's very, very simple, which always reminds me to try to keep my conversations simple and brief. I find that if I go off too much with lots of words, it tends to take me further away from the truth of reality.
But that sort of parallels the whole spiritual industry itself right now, in a way. We've got gajillions of seminars, institutes. There's a lot going on, but not to judge any of it. It's all good, and there's something for everyone everywhere. But it's somehow bigger than all that. It ain't about doing anything or learning anything in a sense. So I'm bringing in a soft-spoken professor to try to boil it all down. Her name is Min. She's my guardian angel, 80,000 other people's guardian angel, in episode 110, August 30th of 2024. Retired physician, Dr. Karen Wyatt. her guardian angel. She got to meet her on a beach, Redondo Beach, California, as a human. What's Min have as, again, a very soft spoken reminder for everyone about it's not external?
Hmm. Brevity seems to be the key today. I know, I agree with you. There is so much talk in that spiritual space of people putting on seminars and workshops and stuff like that. I have tended to gravitate away from those things. But like you said, not to be judgmental or anything, there are plenty of people out there who need to hear the words in order to get to the simplicity. So words definitely have a place. There's no doubt about that. I've spent the last 50 years of my life trying to distill all the words into as few words as possible. I know it might not sound that way on this particular interview, but nonetheless, I try to use my words sparingly and to the
So
point.
since you were five for the last 50 years, okay, exactly. Let's do this. Let's do one final interactive thing. And by the way, for folks at home, play those over, put the angel photo back up, hit pause, ignore us. And I've only got one rule or what setting your intent is my only rule or bit of structure advice for you. And that's just ask angels to get you out of your head into your heart so you can just listen without all the fluff up here. You're listening with all of you here and ask a private question, but keep it easy. And the easiest question of all for 15 years has been, hey, Joy, hey, Charlotte, hey, Min, what do I need to know in life right now? It'll sound like a little whisper. Definitely might sound like your voice for half a second. If you can relax a little more, it's like turning up the volume on a 1970s receiver. uh, their voice should come through, a Joy, a Charlotte, or Min. Now, with that, Paul, let me do one last thing. Let me put my hand up in Texas. Feel the vibe one way. I'm going to whoosh you, but when I whoosh you, I want to try to show the point of going beyond words. You're going to get some angel light in a moment. First, just feel the connection if you don't mind putting your hand up. And I'm going to whoosh you the next topic, but we're going to let angels do all the energetic stuff. First, what do you feel with your palm? Are you feeling warmth, sparkle, bubbly? What adjective or adjectives would you use?
It's pulsating.
And don't blame me. Don't blame Canada. Blame angels from that one specifically. Okay, here comes the whoosh. My microphone's up there today. I'm going to blow Hawaii your way. I can't help but blow while I push. And it's going to be a topic. So blame Joy for this, Charlotte, Min. Let them do their jobs. Here comes the topic, but nonverbal transmission here. And now there's no pressure on a live taped broadcast here. Paul, what are you getting for a topic for all of us from that little whoosh?
Let's see. It's clear to me that the topic is the importance of embodiment.
And by that, you mean being in the actual physical body. It eliminates 80% of all the obstacles we typically go through daily, weekly, yearly. I only know this because I've watched you in other shows here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I've found with myself when I was younger and with many people who I've worked with over the years is that uh, there's a lot of disembodiment, which has to do with the nature of our bodies and that survival instinct that I've talked about before and all that. Um, we tend to get stuck in that fight or flight mode. The main way that we cope with that is by disconnecting, disembodying, if you will.
Three
And
examples,
so,
though.
what's that?
Three examples of that so people can relate.
Well, let's see. The one example that comes to mind is for somebody who's really not present, not in their bodies, is you're driving to work. You leave your house, you're driving to work, you get to work 30 minutes later. You don't remember anything that happened during those 30 minutes because your attention has been somewhere else. You don't really know where, but that's a good example of being disembodied. Another example might be where you're having some issues in your body, some pain or something like that, where you're completely oblivious to the fact that you're feeling pain in a particular part of the body. I get this a lot in my classes with people who have had, let's say, neck pain for many years, but are not aware of it at all. That's because they're at least partially disconnected. Once they start practicing that embodiment of mindfulness practice, they start to come in touch with these areas of discomfort in the body, and they say, "Oh my gosh, I realize now that that pain in my neck has been there for many, many years. I just was completely unaware of it because I don't think I've really been completely connected to my body all this time." So those are the two of the three examples that you asked me to give that come right off the top of my head.
And let's go another way to the big picture. Angels exist, beings of light exist, unconditional love figures exist in and around us. It's bigger than we ever think it is because it's not thinking. But can you say it in a different way for us so that we know we're not alone? And what's the simplest way to ask for help from the universe? If someone's not sure about their own abilities or being in their body, or they're capable of anything we're actually doing or talking about, how can you give a little bit of advice just to get started here and now for someone? But first, are we alone in the universe?
No, not even close. There's there's so much going on in the universe, so much activity, so many other beings uh, that exist in the universe that I've come across in my many travels. So no, we're not
Can
alone.
you name a handful for us of different types of figures to just help someone kind of approximate a little? And this goes way back to, again, when you were a kid, to teenage years, to college, to beyond. Can you share just a few figures either you've come across or you know exist from your perspective, your reality?
I've come across two types of beings primarily. Uh, one one type would be angels. I've seen them for many, many years. I continue to see them on a regular basis, particularly in my meditation practice. Another one would be different teachers. I have spent many years um, traveling to various, shall we say, schools in other dimensions that and attending classes that are taught by different teachers, Earth type teachers, non-Earth type teachers, so forth and so on. So I seem to be surrounded by those two types of beings, teachers and angels.
And one non-Earth teacher, even if there's not a name, can you try to describe it somehow that we get extra flavor? Because I don't think out of the last 20,000 podcasts that have been taped in the last 5 years in America that have anything to do with spirituality, self-help, the universe, or science, I don't think anyone's about to describe it the way you're about to describe it. Can you give it a shot? Can you pick one? I am going to put up Charlotte, though, for any missing background. And if you want to close your eyes, you can tune into that teacher. They'll even give you a few details. But can you share one non-Earth teacher with us that just any sort of flavor you could?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind, and I don't know if I would classify this as a teacher or an angel or both, but it's a huge column of light and it's like golden light. And I've seen that on many, many different occasions. I've seen angels and teachers in many different forms. The one that leaves the biggest impression with me is that huge column. It's like a big vertical column of golden light. And there's a sense of beingness to that column and always come away with a really good feeling with that type of experience.
Okay, and I'm going to put up Archangel Michael. This isn't necessarily for public consumption at all, but let Michael put a label on that column of light. Just say, got it when you got it. And then have Michael pick a topic for us to go into next if we're supposed to move on. Or if you're allowed to say who that column of light is, you can do so. It's your choice or his choice or your choices.
Yeah, I don't get a name with the column. Um, yeah, I don't it's a nameless kind of thing. A lot of these experiences with the teachers in particular do not come with names. It comes more with an energetic stamp.
Mm.
I can identify them through that sense of energy that comes with them.
What would be one moment in your life where it was physical here on this plane? You could have been out and about, it could have been walking through a building. When did you have an experience with the universe that was special? Not scary, but special. And it didn't shake you necessarily, but it might have altered your view of everything for a little while before the brain kicked back in. Can you share one of those special moments in life with us right now?
Now, let's see. What comes to mind is I'm not even sure if I would classify it as an out-of-body experience, but I guess I would because there didn't seem to be a body that I was occupying as I was traversing the universe, shall we say, making my way um, through the universe and visiting various planets and stars. And what impressed me the most is when I would visit a star or a planet, I would be able to see all of the various dimensions that existed within that particular heavenly body. And I learned how to interact with each dimension
Mm.
that way.
When can you pinpoint one particular day where this happened and give us a little actual detail on the here and now side? Where were you when one of these trips happened?
Well, my body was asleep,
Okay.
and it was either asleep or I was during meditation. I think my body was asleep, and I was off to one of my school experiences and then took myself on a road trip after class. Uh, and so the experience has stayed with me. I can say that I can recall or call up that experience anytime I want, like right now.
Mm.
It's almost as if I'm there. It is like an umbilical cord that stayed with me and it connected me here and now with that experience that happened then, which I guess I could safely say that it's continuing to happen. Because my experience with those kinds of things is that there's really no past or future. It's all just present moment stuff. So that stuff is continuing to happen, being able to experience, perceive, and see those dimensions, those multiple dimensions in various places in the universe.
So if we're talking European railways, you've got basically a permanent Europass in your possession.
Yeah,
Train anytime you want.
that's an interesting metaphor. Yeah, never thought of it that way, but I would say that's an accurate description.
Let's switch to rivers, Volkswagens, and getting stuck in the 70s when you were younger, traveling a little bit like Indiana Jones in the sense that you decided to go, I can't remember if it was Peru or Colombia, but you managed to land a Volkswagen in the middle of a river. Now, it's told in full detail in one of your earlier appearances. Can you just give us the short version of how you got the car into the middle of a river? What was next? And then how'd you get rescued?
Well, I was traveling on a road way up in the Andes. There was really only room for one car on this particular road, and I was winding up a mountain. I was probably at around 10,000 feet on my way up to 14, 15, 16,000 feet. And I hit what I thought was a shallow river. Turned out to be not so shallow, but I really had no choice. I couldn't turn around and go back because I was looking to get to the Altiplano, a high plain up in Peru. So I figured, well, I'll just drive through the river, head through on the other side, and everything is good. But the river turned out to be deeper than I thought, and my Volkswagen Beetle stalled in the middle of the river. Now, this is a road where you don't see a car for days. And so I'm sitting there. I got out of the car, walked to the to the sand on the other side of the river, and just sat down and tried to scratch my head and figure, what am I going to do next? So I probably sat there for 5 or 10 minutes. And then lo and behold, a Volkswagen bus pulls up with, I'd say, 4 or 5 Germans, adventurers, who were also very knowledgeable about Volkswagens. Not only were they knowledgeable, but they had a bunch of tools in their Volkswagen bus. So I guess they figured if anything happened on the road, they'd be able to fix it. Well, they towed my car, the Beetle, out of the small river, and then got under the car and proceeded to pull out all of their tools, fix it, get it running again, and then they drove on. And there I was, the car was running fine again. Looking back on it, it almost seemed dreamlike that there was this coincidence of Germans, where Volkswagen is made, who were driving this bus with all kinds of tools and know how to fix the car I was driving. So they drove off, and then I drove off, continued on my adventure in Peru. And I look back on it now and just wonder, did it really happen?
And I think an angel said, yeah, it was definitely divine intervention helping you out with that. In a later show, you can check that out as well. Look up Paul Sugar. All the shows are listed like record albums. They're listed on the website, michaelandreford.com/, probably Angels Positivity Love Show. Just get to the main website. You'll see it there under shows, and you can see all the album art. We're approaching the 200th episode airing this Sunday. It's Saturday, probably May 9th, if I got it right, 2025, as you're watching this. But tomorrow on Sunday will be the 200th episode with Bill O'Haron, fellow I didn't know at Middlebury, but we missed each other by a year, but we had the same fraternity brothers and overlapped and didn't meet him for decades till decades later. And he's into Plato and Socrates and Marcus Aurelius, as Paul and I were talking about those three just before the show. With that, I'm going to put Plato up if I can find him. I have a photograph of Plato, actual photo. You can see the old man's face in there. I'll try to cover it a little so you can see the face. Mustache, nose. No hugs for him. They're sweaty, but a fist pump is great, or get a tap on the shoulder. What's Plato have as the next topic for us?
Hmm.
Paul?
Should we say, this is one of my favorite subjects, and I'll talk briefly on it, but reincarnation.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Duh. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about reincarnation. Is this the only game in town and lights out? And when it's all over, it's the TV, you take it to the junkyard and boom. No more story.
Yeah, my experience with reincarnation is that it's very, very different than what's commonly thought of regarding that particular subject. And what's at the core of my understanding of reincarnation is the concept of interconnectedness. And so I've had this experience where I'm able to experience other lives that maybe I had something to do with and maybe I didn't, and it didn't really matter. It seems to me like all the lives that have existed here on Earth are accessible through consciousness. Let me say that again if I can. All the lives that have existed here on Earth are accessible through consciousness. And so we're able to experience and share in all of these lives because you've got lives that are seemingly in the past and the future when in fact they're all happening in the present in various dimensions.
Concurrent.
So if we want to experience a particular life, we can do it just by a shift in consciousness. And so I know that's very, very different than what's commonly thought of in traditional reincarnation. But my thought is that traditional reincarnation takes it way too personally. People tend to over-identify with particular lives, which, in my experience, is a disservice. I think the key is in not identifying with particular lives and opening yourself up to the identification of multiple lives and beyond that, even more and more. Keeping in mind that the concept of reincarnation is really an earth concept, and there's a lot more beyond the earth concept of reincarnation that allows for the experience of the interconnectedness, or as some people call it, interbeing. I think Thich Nhat Hanh uses that term from time to time, interbeing.
I like that. We'll bring Thich Nhat Hanh in just a second, but I'm going to put up a few angels. The name of the exercise, if it's Life the Board Game, Life the Board Game, you get a little car with some pegs. There's cash involved. You go all over the map. There's even some fake plastic mountains that you go over as you go through the board game of life. How is love really important? And if you show enough love here, does it bleed over to your other concurrent past lives? I'm going to put up Joy, the angel. What does she say about this whole past lives thing, love, and show love always? What does she say?
Yeah, love seems to be the thread that connects everything. What I got just then was the image of a pearl necklace. So you've got a bunch of pearls on the necklace, but what keeps the necklace together is the thread that goes through all the pearls. So I think we could safely say that love is the thread that goes through all the pearls and keeps those pearls together.
I love that. I don't think anyone said it that way. I'll simply add the oyster part of it, though. You can stay shut tight like an oyster, or the world can be your oyster. And that's just, are you here or are you here? Most of us are going to be up here. As soon as this show's done, I got to get right back up to here. Forget love. I'll go right back to thinking. I know what I know. You can't tell me differently. Okay, here's Charlotte. What does she say about this love thing?
She is reminding me that even though there's a difference between the heart here, as you pointed, and the head here, that love has the ability to unite the heart and the head. So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Ugh.
We want to keep the head. We want to keep our head on our shoulders. And what we can do there to be more productive is to unite the heart and the head. So the
And
head's got lots of potential if it's united with the heart.
and so on and so forth. Because the baby with the bathwater, those are your two biggest expressions. I've hung out with you more than 100 times now. And I know Paul Sugar when he has those idiosyncrasies, the Paul Sugarisms. Those are the top two. Okay, Min, she's very oceany, soft-spoken professor. Can Min give us something about interdimensionality? I know science thinks it's at the point of the spear, the tip of the spear, or we'll call it disclosure. Do we really need either in one sense? And of course we do in another to validate everything. Can she help us with like maybe pumping the brakes a little on disclosure on the galactic UFO stuff and maybe on science? Have we not already been there for decades or centuries or longer?
Yeah, I believe we have been there on my, well, shall I say, it's not just belief, my experience is that we've been there for eons in Earth years.
Yeah. Is there,
He,
let me try to put her up and Michael up as well, or at least Gabriel. Is part of the science disclosure push these days to prove it in a lab, is it also about spinning it and controlling it and limiting what it really is about? And here's Gabriel and Min. If you don't mind getting something angelic here in terms of how we can all relax about proving it.
Yeah, it could be a couple things. It could be a spin on one level. On another level, it could be part of a process that is manifesting universal truths
That can't be
uh,
spun.
into the body. So yeah, so it could be both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
On one level, yeah, it could be a spin, but on another level, a much deeper level, I believe it's serving a purpose. It's part of the waking up process that's going on right now, where these experiences are being brought into the present moment, into the body being the crystallization of the present moment. And that's why the body is so important, because it is actually the gateway into the present moment experience.
Very interesting. Okay, I've got another angel named Heather. She makes hearts in her photographs. Even the name Heather is the word heart rearranged with a few extra letters. What are you getting from Heather to add to the conversation? But I want to also show, I've got a lot of photos on my website of angels, but here's another one of her that I think is super fun. I've seen her as a human in Stockholm, Hawaii, Vegas, Austin, New York, and another location. I forgot where. But the point is, angels are around. They live in us and around us, but you can see them as full-on humans. What does Heather have to add to the whole dialogue going on here?
Yeah, the big thing I think is with angels to know that they're always here, that it's part of these other dimensions. I think it's important to think of these other dimensions not as separate dimensions. Instead, thinking of them as interpenetrating, sort of like the image that comes to my mind would be those Russian dolls, where one fits inside the other, and you've got six or seven of them, big ones, smaller, smaller, smaller. I think that's how these dimensions work. They're all interpenetrating. Every dimension is interpenetrating. So rather than thinking that you're going from one dimension to another and one is separate from another one, they're all interpenetrating. They're all within us in that sense. So it really just takes a shift of attention, a shift of consciousness to be able to experience it in that way.
Well, let's show everybody what that's about. I'm going to use these, and I'm going to use this as the background. Now, blue sky would be number one, or a shut-off TV, or a dark sweatshirt. And this is kind of coming from Celestine Prophecy, the movie, where they have the Band of Brothers actor being shown how to see his light on his fingers with the JAG or NCIS actress showing him. But as Sue Frederick from Arizona, who lives within 50 miles of you, said, hey, back in the 70s, we were already doing this before the movie existed. And in India, they do it this way. Not every single person in India, but enough people, they do it this way. You see a little filament of light between my fingers. Let it be what it will. Once you see it, Paul, just say whatever colors you see, gold, green, yellow, orange. And the second you do see it, I'm going to go wider, bigger, faster, and we'll let Joy, Charlotte, Min, Michael, archangels kick in extra light or a symbol or geometrical or whatever. We've been getting all sorts of vortices. People have gotten phoenixes. A running buffalo, I think, was the wildest. Blah, blah, blah. It'll be what it is. Don't blame me. Don't blame Canada. We're going to blame angels in the universe and multidimensionality and all this. But most importantly, you're going to get a dad joke. Paul, you just heard it before the show, but a lot of folks have not heard this one. It's one of my favorites. Where do rainbows go when they're bad? Prism, but it's a light sentence.
Aha, that
And
definitely warrants a smile.
there we go. Okay, you'll see a little filament of light between my fingers. If anybody needs help, put a hand on your heart, breathe through your mouth a little extra, 1 millimeter open counts. And what wisp flow do you see between my fingers?
You like a golden thread.
Okay, now I'm going to go bigger. Let angels, Plato, the universe, galactic figures do something extra for you. What are you getting now?
I'm seeing the infinity symbol.
Okay, now you're on tape here, and that's awesome. If people could put emojis down if you're seeing something, please, at home. You don't have to say what you're seeing. Stay shy. That's okay. People are putting emojis down when they smell sage or they say, hey, I smell sage in the comments. You can check that out if you need courage. Okay, Paul, ask for one extra thing, whether it's around you in the room, hand on your shoulder and a squeeze from an angel, or it's between my fingers. Ask for a little extra. Let Charlotte or somebody come in and do an extra color, a little teeny balls of light, sparkles. What are you getting now?
Seeing golden spirals.
Okay. I love it. People can play that over. If you need to go for a run, take a shower, laugh, watch your favorite Bugs Bunny cartoon, have a cup of tea, and just go hug a tree. There's 1 million ways to be here. This is the next question. And there's 40 million ways to definitely not be here and be up here. How is this all not about thinking, structure, words, or wisdom or knowledge, but about just letting go of all the stuff you think you know, just to be here, like a giant catcher's mitt? Can you talk to us about that's why this is so simple and everyone's walking around as a Zen master? They just don't know it.
Yeah, well, the importance of staying heart-centered, and I know you put your hand here to demonstrate the heart center, is that when the heart is really open, the energy is moving in all directions. So it's going up to the head, and we talked about transforming the head before, but it's also going throughout the entire body. And so it's transforming the entire body as well. And so I guess we could, in some ways, we could think of the heart as a generator, just a generator of energy, and just allowing that energy to flow throughout every system in the body and beyond, into bodies that exist in other dimensions that you happen to be connected to, and then every body everywhere.
So a generator, a Suzuki, a Honda generator, something big and a lot of wattage. But this is kind of like a 2032. If anyone knows their garage clicker, those little circular quarter-sized batteries. I mean, everyone thinks the action is up here, and there's obviously gajillions of books and experts and institutes and knowledge and science and mankind, this and that. But isn't it kind of a thimble compared to how big of that doorless door, gateless gate that you're talking about, the connection to a universal flow, universal wisdom, universal being that dwarfs all the mankind stuff? Can you cover that as well? And gently. We're not trying to be judgmental or too judgy here.
Yeah, can you distill that question
Yeah,
into?
I mean, mankind literally believes everything's happening up here and the action is kind of down here again.
Yeah, well, for now, that's what they believe. But the mind, we'll define this as the mind, the head, is going through a transformation right now. And it's not going to be what it is now in the future. And I'm not talking about what the tech people would call the singularity, which in their language means a merging of AI with the brain. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the potential of the brain and the mind. And when I say brain and mind, I usually think of two different things. The brain is the organic medium of the mind. The mind exists and is should we say generated by the brain in this particular instance, in this particular body. But there's a lot more to the mind than just the body experience. And I think what's going on now is not just the mind, but the brain is going through a transformation. And it's a sort of parallel transformation. So as the brain is transforming, so is the mind. And they're both transforming in an expansive kind of way and becoming, shall we say, imbued with the heart energy. So there's a coming together of those two elements.
And there's definitely going to be some apple carts tipped over along the way. There's people who think it's going a certain way, and there's a certain logic or a certain flow of science built level by level by level. And a lot of that could be pushed aside a little. I think we've even had a government spokesperson say, hey, time and distance, the distance part we've conquered. That was this announcement the other day So physics as we know it might not be the physics that's actually been developing for the last 50, 60 years on the side or through black projects and all the rest. And again, that's still not the point of the issue here. Maybe we can try to tackle it a different way. Interdimensionality, we're not alone in the universe. Galactic figures, they're just here to help. True unconditional love figures, not the other side. They don't want to interfere, but there's sort of something that Earth has signed up for in terms of a greater frequency or elevation of vibration. Can we have Charlotte and you weigh in on this a little to try to lessen any fears and be a little reassuring? And even the animals are involved. I don't want to sound like the guy from Mork and Mindy, Robin Williams, who's passed over, but even the animals are involved. And he would do a quick, funny voice of animals here. But the deer, I mean, there's a vibration thing happening on the planet. There's a shift.
Yeah, and I would agree with you in that there's nothing to be afraid of. Not that everybody is going to experience it that way. There's a lot of fear in the human race, and part of the human race, part of the human race experience is its resistance to change. And I could go on for hours about that, but I won't. I'll just say that part of the human experience is the resistance to change. And what we're going through now is enormous change. And when change hits that resistance, what happens is it creates fear. And so there'll be a lot of people that will go through that fear experience because they're not used to the change and they're not open to the change. But at a certain point, they will become acclimated to the change. They'll be able to shift their energy, their vibration. And when they're able to do that, the openness to change will become predominant. And once that happens, the fear will subside and eventually go away. And what will happen at that point is just the opposite of fear, which is not courage, it's love. So that experience of love will start to come in as the fear subsides.
I'm going to read some quotes. I've got 18 pages of Herman Melville, Eckhart Tolle, Mother Teresa, angels saying stuff, even Star Wars quotes. I'm going to put up one or two and get your reaction. I think it goes to maybe some of what we're talking about. Here's one from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke in the original 1977 Star Wars. Luke, you are going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. And I'm going to pair it with Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul, a quote out of that fun book from probably 20 years ago now, or 30. You change the way that you shape the light which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness. Can you kind of marry the two or talk about it? I think you just did, but can you talk about it in a new way? Again, Luke, you are going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. And Gary Zukav, you change the way that you shape the light, which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness.
Yeah, so with the first one, our own point of view definitely changes how we experience things. And if we're stuck in the fear mode, then our point of view, our relationship to the events in our life are going to be influenced by the fear. Once we're able to make that shift that we were talking about a minute before, and be open to change and be open to that new experience. Once we're able to make that shift, then we have that that access to that love experience. And that's where as Gary Zukov would say, that's where the shift in consciousness comes. When you're able to shift consciousness out of the fear mode and into the love mode, that's when the gates open up for you.
And I'll do a Wayne Dyer quote. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But I'll throw in another quote. The only source of knowledge is experience. Einstein. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer. And then the only source of knowledge is experience. Albert Einstein. And Einstein was all over these topics.
Yeah, well, Wayne was pretty much saying the same thing as the previous two quotes. Hmm. Yeah, Einstein, he nailed a lot of this stuff. If you do a deep dive into Einstein, there's a lot more than what meets the eye with what's commonly known as Einstein's um, intellectual prowess. He went a lot deeper, a lot further than that. He really had that connection to the universal consciousness. And we celebrate his intellect, but the truth is, we should not only celebrate his intellect, but we should celebrate his consciousness and his connection to the universe. Same thing with Tesla. The more you do a deep dive into Tesla, the more you're going to find out that he had that same connection to the universe that Einstein had. And so, although we celebrate Tesla's intellect and creativity, we should also be celebrating his consciousness and his connection to the universe.
Einstein had a quote about hiding your sources, and he used to take a lot of naps and he'd do a lot of connecting during his nap time and a lot of connecting to the other side or whatever you want to call it, interdimensional connecting. Let's go to the horse's mouth, but he's not a horse, it's Einstein. Have him weigh in with a quick reminder for us all how simple it is directly from Einstein. Paul, leave your eyes on him, hear his voice loud and clear. What's he have as a reminder to the audience for living life and loving more?
Yeah, the open, just being open. And it also reminds me that taking it from Einstein's perspective and other um, perhaps famous accomplished people, I know Mozart had this same skill. The skill that I'm talking about is the ability to take these naps during the day. These aren't just naps for certain people. These are gateways to creativity. For Einstein, that was the case. For Mozart, that was the case. For Thomas Edison, that was the case. Tesla, and so on. If you continue to do your deep dive into the life of these kinds of people, what one of the common threads that you're going to find is their proclivity to take these cat naps during the day and using them as gateways into the creative experience. Gateways into the creative experience, and then being able to bring that experience back into their conscious waking.
And
It's a definite skill. It's a skill that actually can be developed.
yes. And you teach mindfulness and meditation and so on and so forth. Uh, Here's joy. I like when I take, I used to skip meditating for a long time, did it for a long time. I've had it shift around. I try not to keep it the same set of pancakes every, I went to Swedish pancakes for a little while. But the point is, I'll have joy wake me up at the end of the nap while stuff is happening. So I'll get a pink ball light with my eyes shut. Sometimes I'm beating my little Apple timer, if I have a timer set, by 30 seconds. She just knows when to come in. I start to come out of it, hang with her for a little bit and then just hit that timer before it goes off, the alarm before it goes off. Okay, Thich Nhat Hanh, I promised to bring him in. Here he is. He'll have something. He's super pithy, super clear. It'll be a photograph of him if you'll leave your eyes on him. But if you don't mind allowing for a Vietnamese Buddhist temple to be just 5 meters behind you, you're not in Arizona anymore. You're not in Kansas. You're in Vietnam with the Buddhist temple behind you. Let some either chimes in the wind come in or incense from that temple. So you're getting a multidimensional, transdimensional experience thanks to TNH. Here he is. Even see a little bit of golden flecks of light around you, Paul, if you wish, if you would. And you can even breathe more at home, folks. Leave your mouth a little bit open. Whatever means your shoulders are going up and down. You're actually breathing. You're not thinking about breathing. You're breathing. You're actually in your heart. Let him do his job and reach you at home. If you have to hit the pause button on this, do it. And if anybody could put a comment, an emoji, certainly share, like, and subscribe in the big picture here. Paul Sugar, we're buying you some time. Are you thumbs up interacting with Thich Nhat Hanh while we're yapping away over here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Now, what are you getting for something from him to you for all of us? And if you don't mind also doing it energetically as well, put a hand off camera somehow, feel a lot of light up and down your back, your hand. And if you could then blow that light to us, whether it's through words or just good wishing all of us for years to come on this show. What are you getting from him to all of us?
This sounds like him. I won't take credit for it. Access, access to that universal energy is one breath away.
I like that. It's a little bit like compassion, a quote from Mother Teresa. Compassion is like a deep breath for many. And she was saying, hey, everyone's so busy with the hubbub that even just taking a deep breath could be the closest you're going to get in the whole week to compassion. But I want to jump to, oh my gosh, one of those martial arts. I forgot which one, but there's a guy who practices this stuff in Asia, and you can see him even take his hand and have chi come out of it, and you can set paper on fire. Or we'll highlight Leah Suzuki, who is a fall November or so 2024 guest on the show here. Sixth Dan, black belt type thing. But she talked about how her own, I put the links in there. She had two famous masters, senseis, who you can barely catch on YouTube, but they were famous for jujitsu in Japan. And I put those links in. She described, though, once, and the way it works is there's no competitions. They just have a bunch of students lined up for an exhibition, and they point, and the person comes forward to try to take out the master. And the next thing you know, Steven Seagal has a lot of this on YouTube as well. You go to reach for the master, and the next thing you know, 2 seconds later, you're flat on your back wondering what happened. Now, it can look very fake, but she describes reaching and touching the master's wrist, and she said on the show, so you have to check this out, there was nothing there. And half a second later, she's on her back looking up, not understanding what just happened. So I'll jump to Yoda and the Force and Star Wars and all that stuff. There's something to be said about the chi, the flow. Thich Nhat Hanh knew it. You know it in different ways. Everyone knows it if you've been on a tennis court and never hit a winner, or just practiced yoga successfully, or even taken a shower, hot shower, and even tried Italian opera in the shower. There's a lot of ways we let go, or even reading an Agatha Christie novel curled up in the corner. If you've let go and felt like you were in the book, you're doing it right. With that, I'm going to put up a Native American chief, Geronimo, and he's very succinct, very yeah, nah, slang, informal, but boy, is he action. And boy, does he know how to put the tail on the donkey. What does he say this is really all about, Paul? Before I can even put him up, you're going to get the answer like a lightning bolt coming in. What's Geronimo say this is all about?
Well, like we were talking about before, it's all about experience.
So experience is where it's at. And now for
Yeah,
you,
wasn't one of the quotes, was it Einstein said that, right?
yeah, he
It's all
said
about experience. And I think that's the theme with Geronimo as well.
the only source of knowledge is experience was the quote. And you have been giving people that experience through mindfulness and meditation. And you've had people in the middle of that. There's such presence going on that they have some organic awakening happening. You've noticed that lately. Can you touch upon that? You're probably not the only person in America noticing, we'll call it extra, is happening. When you set the table and people come to dine, a few people are getting 2 or 3 course desserts suddenly served by the kitchen.
Yeah, I have been noticing that, particularly when I'm teaching. More so when I do my classes, it's a combination of in person and Zoom. So it's live online and it's also in person. Lately, I've been having people tell me that when they're in person with me and sitting next to me during the meditation practice, they begin to actually see, hear, and feel their guides. Now, I don't know if it's a recent phenomenon or if it's just people recently who are speaking up about the experience. So perhaps it's been going on for a while. But lately, like the last 6, 7 months, people have been actually speaking up and telling me that they're having these experiences in person during class. Now, I also believe that it's happening on Zoom as well. I think that it's transferable to the online experience. It doesn't have to be in person.
And you've got your Scottsdale Institute for Health. I'm not getting it necessarily exactly right website, but and that'll be in the details of the video. But you also have your new, about, I'm going to guess 9 months old, paulsugar.com, right, website as well. People can check out. It's beautiful and succinct. Um, with this, I'm going to put up a final two Native American chiefs. We'll do a galactic figure, and then we'll start to wind up the whole show. But Dull Knife, you've met him before a bunch of times. He's wisdom with some humor, like a mountain range, very proper, very formal. But if you could allow for one of those 60 Native American scents in the air, tobacco, sweetgrass, juniper, pine, cedar, desert pinon, you get the idea. What are you getting in the air around you right now? And anybody who needs help at home, breathe more, open the mouth a little. It just lets you drop into your body fully to allow for better interaction. And if anybody needs to, put your hand out, treat them like a fireplace, feel what you can feel, don't judge. Allow is what I would just say. Okay, Dull Knife, what are you getting for a scent, a feeling around you, Paul?
Getting the scent of sweetgrass.
And what is Dull Knife sharing with you? And then what is he sharing with all of us? It doesn't have to be the same thing. And keep private whatever you want to keep private, but share what you would share.
Yeah, it's about the sacredness of the planet and how we need to treat not just the planet as a sacred being, but ourselves as well.
And that's music to a lot of people's ears listening. I want to direct this final sort of question. We'll get a galactic figure or two in at the last second here. But Red Shirt, he's the gentlest mom in the world. Compassion, compassion, compassion. Lakota Sioux chief, historical figure, wearing U.S. presidential medal. How can people feel reassured wherever they are in life? My problem is, my situation is lots of thinking going on. It's like Casablanca, my favorite expression. I'm shocked to see there's some gambling going on in this casino. We got a lot going up here. How can people be reassured that they actually have an Olympic gold medal waiting for them just by doing 7% less thinking a day or just chillaxing a little more and not taking things so seriously or literally? What's Red Shirt? What do you have to say about this?
What I can say is that through my own experience, I know this to be true. And I also know of the experience of interconnectedness, meaning that if it's true for me, it's true for everybody else as well.
And you've
And so
dedicated your life in service of others to get that exact point across.
exactly. Everything that I've experienced is able to be experienced by everybody else.
Okay.
And more, and more.
A very important asterisk at that. Here's Joy. Are we doing a Pleiadian, a Lyran? Are we doing the woman from Sirius? Not trying to sound too serious here. Or all three. In a moment, you're going to have to close your eyes and allow for those three figures or one or two of them to come in. What does Joy say you're doing next? Pleiadian, woman from Sirius, or the Lyran? Or all the above?
Serious.
Okay, close your eyes. Have a woman in a green flowing outfit. She loves our forests here, our forests in general. Pinpoints of light all around her that are consciousness, diamond consciousness, crystalline, something beautiful. They're like M&Ms or potato chips. One isn't enough, and she's happy to share. But breathe extra for folks at home. You can do this too. If you have to put your hands out like you're at a concert, if you need to run off, walk the dog, hug the dog, jump in the shower, do a headstand, have a cup of tea, set your intent. My fallback for 14 years has been angels. Get me out of my head, into my heart. Thank you. And we've muted Paul, and in an hour, we'll check back in, just making him laugh. What'd you get? What are you feeling? What do you got something in there for energy coming in? Has she been wonderful, lovely?
Yeah, it's interesting that even though it's a woman in green from Sirius, I'm feeling like on another level, it's Mother Nature.
Hmm.
You know, that Earth Mother kind of vibe is what I'm getting.
Yeah. Paul, what's a mantra you want to leave us with, but you're going to have to say it 3 times? And not to put you on the spot, because you've been on the spot this entire show. You've had to answer this, answer that. It's like going to a professor and having to ask all these questions. Joy can help you out on the mantra, but you got to say it 3 times for us. And the reason why you're doing it 3 times is people can play it back. They can pick up on your vibration. Maybe they can talk to Joy. They'll go back to this photo right afterwards, actual photo of an angel. This photo's changed colors, moved, catch flowers in the air, do anything you want. I want to see pink sparkles all around you at home. Do it. No limits means no limits. You knew it as a kid. Maybe it's true as an adult as well. Paul, what mantra do you want to leave us with when you say it? If you could do it 2 more times.
Kindness is compassion in action. Kindness is compassion in action. Kindness is compassion in action.
Ah, Paul Sugar in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you so much for being on the APL Spotlight series. It's always a treat to see you off camera, on camera. You're a total delight. And thank you for being a beacon, a shining light for all of us day in, day out.
You're very welcome, and thank you for all that you do, Michael.
Thank you.